Clock tells me it is 6:31 now, so I will call this meeting of the Plan Commission to order. Stephanie, would you take a roll call?
Yes. Bianca,
Here.
Christensen, here. Arlen Kai,
Here.
Dave Hageman,
Here.
Doug Soul,
Here.
Gina Larson, here. Jessica Mark.
Next up, approval of the minutes from our last meeting, July 18th. Those are provided with us with notice tonight, right, Steph? Is that what your minutes were?
My minutes. Yes,
Yep.
that's this.
Want to take a moment to review those? Yeah, I think a motion to.
Minutes of our last meeting.
A second. Any discussion? My discussion is, Stephanie, thanks for taking such good minutes. There were a lot of things that we needed details on, and I seem to have found everything. All in favor of approving minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Item number 4, discussion recommendation. Okay, for the final review of the comprehensive. I know that much of you have devoted considerable time to looking at this already, but let's take another look. But I suggest that if you have a particular recommendation or change that you call to our attention when we were putting the draft together, make sure that your comment was addressed. I'm satisfied. Here, please. See if anybody has any discussion. Revised copy by Brian. So got in the packet was the one approved by the board. One given to
Yes. There are no more pending. No, everything should be here. Yeah, the last two things that I was. Sorry. Okay. We done 2 things, and they were in the draft that was given to the board. He just didn't put them in my PDF, so.
Right.
Yep. Didn't have it uploaded to the PDF. And it was mainly that chapter for the recycling center thing that was already done. It just wasn't in my PDF. It is now.
Jennifer's online. Is there anybody else?
Jennifer wants to hear, or she's testing out our sound quality for this evening. We've noticed some,
It's been bad.
some meetings have been difficult when we go back and we listen to them, so she just wanted to hop on to check out our sound quality, which is gonna be great probably this meeting because nobody's here. But we'll see.
Jennifer, can you hear us when we talk in a conversational tone? Can you hear us okay?
I've got one question. In the previous thing, I remember I brought up at the last meeting, you think of maps, like map 32 and map 6 and that. So when I look at the new one on my desk here tonight, there's no reference to the map, a map, when there was in the one we were working on here.
Okay, I don't have an explanation for that. Which.
So if you go to chapter 8, page 15, what we were doing last month. Section B is called town land use planning areas, and in parentheses is map 32. If I go to that same spot and what's staying on our desk here,
It just doesn't have a reference for the map.
right, it's just a town land use planning areas. So will maps get added then, or what's?
I'll have to ask. I mean, there are, obviously, the maps are there and they're ready. I didn't print them out because that's a
Right.
lot to print out. But I'll ask Brian if they will be referenced in each.
Do you want us to mention things as we find them or after we review them?
Let's hold off a minute so we don't break people's concentration with it. Yeah, if you make a note, then we'll bring it up. Everybody can listen.
And Stephanie, that same thing is in the, on page 16. Item on the preservation area.
In chapter 8, right?
Chapter 8.
Okay.
It was. In that verbiage, it referenced the map of what we were on before, and there's no reference to it now.
Yeah, I'm wondering if. I'll ask,
Okay,
but I'm wondering if it's. If they'll put it in once the maps are finalized or whatever. I mean, they're finalized, but
Right.
once everything's done. But I will ask about that, make sure and get it.
It identifies which map we're talking about, but doesn't say what the map number is. Is that what the discrepancy is?
right.
I have a question, and it's more from my understanding, so bear with me if you can't follow me. On chapter 8, page 30. Under item number 3 at the top of the page. Minimum lot sizes do not apply to certified survey maps, assessor's plats, or other legal instruments used to recreate existing legally created lots of record, provided substandard lots are not reduced in size. Tell me what that means and give me an example.
Yeah, yep, no, I think I got it just from you reading it. It's, if if there's already a certified survey map,
Mhm.
I think that because it's already a certified survey map and say it's only 1 acre, so, and you know, that already exists,
Mhm.
that then it cannot go under that, but it does not also have to necessarily be a 2 acre lot because it already was a 1. Or 0.75 or whatever.
Is, it seems like the intent is to apply to existing,
Yes,
seem appropriate, pardon?
yes, to existing ones, and then if they had to do, if they did a CSM now, like a lot reconfiguration or something like that, which happens quite frequently. That doesn't mean that they have to do 2 acres now.
Okay,
It means it would have to stay within that acre or plus, you know what I mean?
well, then would it not clarify this greatly if minimum lot sizes do not apply to existing? And the word existing.
I think the reason why it doesn't say existing is because it's recreating it anyways. So. If it said existing, that new instrument is not an existing instrument. So it means while creating,
But it says minimum lot sizes do not apply to certified survey maps. Or legal instruments used to recreate existing
that's
legally created lots.
so used to recreate existing, right there you have your existing. It has to already exist. Legally created lots of record, another thing, already exist. Provided substandard lots are not reduced in size. You can't go beyond what it was already was.
Okay. You're not creating anything, you're just
You're recreating.
revising.
Yeah, recreating. and-
Recognizing the sizes that are already in place.
Mhm. So you can go
Prior.
above those sizes, but you cannot go below those sizes. But just because we have a 2 acre lot minimum now, doesn't mean that they have to. Meet that now that they do a
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yep, that I got.
Yeah,
Okay,
if they are recreating an existing,
thank you for bearing with me.
yeah, well, I get it. It's. A lot, but if you read it over and over again, you get that.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I do find the word existing that Arlen was
Mhm.
looking for, but it's just in a little different place.
It's in a little, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, you got something you want to bring up?
Just two things. The first one, I wondered whether if the complete sentence on page, chapter 1, page 1. There had been a broken off sentence in the first paragraph, where it's ranging from and then nothing. So the last sentence of the first paragraph in the introduction. In the prior, and so that got filled in, but it still seems like it's missing something, like ranging from is now gone, but it seems like there should be something ranging from blah, 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 including the westernmost reaches of. You know what I mean?
And I remember the old language because it was very incomplete. Its location atop the terminal moraine of the Wisconsin glaciation has left the town with a natural landscape, including the westernmost reaches of the southeast glacial plains ecological. I'm reading southeast glacial plains as an adjective or modifier to ecological landscape. That's all describing the landscape.
So. Instead of ranging from,
Yeah, he just putting us at the western, that one section of the landscape, and that's the most reaches.
So you don't feel like any word you're missing after.
Well, I see what you mean, though, that's a lot modifiers, but I think they all pertain to the word landscape.
It just seems like the ranging from would describe the diversity. He's saying it's diverse, but then he's not describing the diversity, he's just describing the geography. That, you know, that it,
You want them describing?
Or you
Well-
could, you can put a period at landscape and leave it at that.
I would be, it's located all the time. I mean, you could just say, what you could delete with a diverse natural landscape and just say includes the westernmost reaches. Its location atop the terminal moraine of the Wisconsin glaciation includes the westernmost reaches of the southeast glacier. I don't know, I don't find that this makes much sense to me. One, either way, I mean, I would like to see this clarified. If he's gonna say that it's a diverse landscape, then I'd like some language that describes the diversity of the landscape. And not just saying that it includes
What area?
other area, this other area. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it might technically not be wildly incorrect from a syntax perspective, but it's not a meaningful sentence.
Catching me in at the beginning stages of a detailed article I am writing to describe the glaciation and the township in a lot of detail. But it's going to be a lot longer than this paragraph if I try to fit that all in there.
Oh, well,
But I see what you mean. It's,
yeah, I mean, I would just say from this to that, you just need to say, from hilly to flat or whatever it is, what the two extremes are that would exemplify diversity and say, I mean, to me, including the westernmost reaches of the southeast glacial plains, ecological landscape, like I don't know what that ecological landscape is. This is like, for the layperson, this is a kind of an overwhelming sentence. I would just break it down, or either break it down and expand on each point a little bit, or try to say less. But, just focus on, this is a diverse landscape ranging from this to this. And maybe you would connect one aspect of diversity to one part of the glaciation geography and another part of the diversity to the other part, you know what I mean? If we're connecting the landscape's diversity to different aspects of glaciated. Said the
Or if
development.
we just took out the word diverse and just put natural landscape, then we wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, you could, that's what I'm saying, you could either shorten it and say less, or if you're gonna say everything that it sort of purports to say, you'd have to break it down and expand and make it meaningful.
I think it's important to leave in diverse for this reason. We're trying to direct growth or protect farmland depending on whether it's suitable for crops or not. So we don't want to give the impression that we have just one landscape, that the township is made up of different kinds of soils, land features. So I like the word diverse in there, because it fits with that.
But really, that's not what this is about. This is about
And the
the
purpose of different.
glacial plains. That sentence has really, it just says atop the terminal moraine of Wisconsin glaciation has left the town. It's not talking about the rest of it. It's talking about how that portion has left it with the, you know what I mean? Like, this sentence isn't encompassing the types of land that we have.
Well, it doesn't say that.
Right.
But you could say what you were saying about what you're getting at in your thinking is you're tying that diversity into different purposes, like farming and different types, qualities of soil, some of which lends itself to farming and some of which might lend itself to other purposes. Or whatever.
For what it's worth, if you Google Southeast Glacial Plains, Wisconsin, there's a whole DNR page dedicated to defining
what
the
that looks
different.
like.
Yeah.
Also, he plucked those words right out of.
Yeah.
DNR said.
Physical and biotic environment, rare species, general management opportunities, considerations for property planning, maps, there's like a whole resource.
Well, you could simply say a whole
So-
diverse landscape that includes this and put a URL or something to that, which would, provide information without one having to write it down, if that's what he's getting at. But without that URL,
Yeah, no,
It's
I
not
see what you're
really-
saying. I think to just read the sentence without an inherent knowledge of geology is somewhat empty. So, but yeah, I don't know how much we want to complicate the document, but I see the value in explaining that there.
Yeah, let me raise this question. We're, notice is already out. Is this on the website, this version on the website someplace so the public can start?
yes. You could just put a period after landscape.
What if we put it on Arlene Kai's desk tonight and say, this is a question we had. The town board's the one that's going to make any final changes. I'm worried about what are we going, as a commission, going to be able to do now that we've already approved something.
Isn't that what we're doing here tonight is,
Making sure that the edits got.
Done, I did.
Regarding edits, if you go down to planning history, bullet dot number 3. I had crossed out, update and implement the town conservation subdivision ordinance. I'm thinking in one of our prior meetings, but I see it's still here.
Oh, yeah.
Is it supposed to be here or did we take it out?
Show me, yep. Absolutely, yeah. Tell me which page you're looking at.
I'm on chapter 1, page 1. Item 2, planning history, and then there's a list of bullet points. I had in my previous one crossed out the 3rd bullet point. Update and implement the town conservation subdivision ordinance.
Because we determined there is.
We did. From talking about it, but I don't know if this should be deleted or if this could be. If this means that we need to update the ordinance.
We never had an ordinance.
I think we did.
We do?
There's language and there was an ordinance, which wasn't mapped out.
I think I see why it's.
That might be why. That's my thought.
Yeah, Dave's idea was we shouldn't be mentioning that.
Absolutely. And then we said we would discuss it later on when it was
Well, I
there.
only brought up, because
And we
for
took it
some
out.
reason, I crossed it out in a previous version, so I'm just comparing my current to
No,
what we've
thank
been
you.
working on.
But isn't it a fact that back in 2005, 2006, that was the plan and they were going to evaluate? And implement the ordinance, what they did was read it. So we're not saying that's what we want to do now, it's just recounting the history of what we've done.
That might be
15
for
years.
that. But I don't know for sure. So I'm gonna ask that question.
No, see, this is just talking about what it is. But. Back in. 05 and 06, but. That was something that had been done before. Second house guy. Okay, Steph, how do you suggest that Jessica, Dave, Arlen, some of us are bringing things up that maybe would require some changes? What do you suggest we do now that this has already been put before?
I will ask Brian about the conservation subdivision one, if that's meaningfully placed there, because that was part of the history of it. And if not, then that would be a deletion, because we deleted, I mean, it's very clear that the intention was to not include conservation subdivision. That's in our minutes, that's what they know, so the town board knows and approved. But I'll ask about that one. And then as far as the other one, I don't know, because that's very wordy and that's a lot of stuff, and I don't know how important that is to the that paragraph at all, or how important that paragraph is, period,
Description of the landscape.
the profile. I mean, we could add a few more sentences to it, but I don't know the value of that.
I think the simplest thing would be just to part, put a period at the end of natural landscape. You could footnote the other part if you wanted to. It's kind of. I mean, it would make more sense as a footnote with the URL too, without which it's not particularly meaningful, but the sentence would make sense if you want to simplify the process to say patient of the terminal moraine of the Wisconsin glaciation is not.
But then just not mention the glacier.
Well, I mean, if you want to, in a separate sentence, describe the boundaries vis-a-vis glacier and directions.
I mean, I don't
Yeah, but the simplest approach editorially would be just to say less. Cut off that part of it.
Now that Gina found it, it is an accurate statement. That's
very
accurate. If anybody wants to look further, they usually look that up, and see exactly what it means. I guess I'm not too.
You could just have a second sentence say the town of Oregon, what is it? The geography of the town of Oregon includes the westernmost features.
You don't like the sentence.
Or includes the ecological landscape. Glacial. I would just break it up into two sentences. Don't pair it with diversity because you're not amplifying or exemplifying diversity. It's that second part. But you are saying something, so it could be its own sentence. If you want. I do think that if it's tied to your website.
Well, I don't know that it's tied to the website, just that
it's
has a meaning, but
Well, and yeah, if you want to include that part of the sentence, I would just put that into it. That doesn't connect it to. Then you just say it's a diverse landscape. And the geography includes the westernmost reaches of the southeast glacial plains, etc.
Like you feel, I don't know about. Just bringing that up to the board and saying there was a comment that our review that this sentence might be awkward and.
In the,
Let the
under
board
the
change
town
it.
profile.
Yeah, if you want, I can write up an alternative that preserves as much of that language as possible, but just makes it more clear in separating it out into two sentences.
I'm concerned about trying to change the draft now that we've already sent out to the board.
And I'm trying to reflect on, does it change the policy?
No.
It's kind of an introduction. And it's not. a
But it's an
statement of-
introduction to the entire thing and it's the town profile, so I think it should be meaningful. It's just one paragraph, we should be able to nail it.
Okay, let's just, if you've got that. What does everybody else feel? Is this something that could and should be changed?
I'm happy, I'm satisfied with the way it is, but others have.
I'm comfortable with the way it is.
Gene, you got a feeling with
I
it?
feel good about the way that it is.
You're getting outnumbered fast.
It's not a ditch I wanna die in, it's fine,
But
I agree that maybe it could be, reworded, but I don't know that that's a priority given where we are.
yeah, I don't think it even needs to be reworded, I think it just needs to be broken up into sentences. I think you could keep like almost all the words, just put in different punctuation.
if there, but we've got this, it's out there.
And it is accurate.
It is reflecting what's out there. What is our task tonight? Is kind of going through this to see that the edits that we got put in here.
I think that's what we're trying to.
Okay, are there going to be further edits? Dave has brought up. There was previous references to maps. The references are not to those maps are not there now.
And Scott's gonna check on
And whether they're going to be put in
or not, yep.
or not. Otherwise, I think we're after, are there any other glaring
Yeah. No.
errors?
On this one, I do have So
Very
I
well.
do have feelings about, and I think we should do this discussion. So if you, at our last meeting, we talked about, one of the edits would be that it would be a requirement for anyone presenting a development, kind of redevelopment of CUP petition to us, that they talk to the county and make sure that they are not in conflict with the preservation of any indigenous, any significant archaeological sites.
Right.
And the way I was thinking about it was that the onus for that task would be on the person bringing the petition to us. But the way this has been worded, and this is the new language that reflects that request.
Direct us to the page you're talking about,
I'm
please.
sorry, chapter 5, page 17.
Okay.
And number 7. So,
Commission shall, that's not, okay. I see.
so the question is, do we want to be, do we want to take on that responsibility that somebody brings out the petition and then we go to the county? I mean, or do we want to just say, as we had said, that it is a requirement that anybody coming to us with a petition needs to have checked off and provided evidence of having checked into the county about this matter? I don't think the onus should be on us.
What
So
number
does
is
everybody
this?
reviews that?
Oh,
I'll weigh in on this one.
Did we have a prior discussion about the availability of that information?
Everybody know where we're talking? What we're talking about,
Mhm.
whether the plan commission should be shall consult with the Dane County Planning to make sure the resources are protected. Or whether we should require that the petitioning party make that search. The insight I can provide on that is that people off the street can't go and find out where the sites are. It's a carefully guarded
Ryan said
secret.
that they should. We asked that question of people, are people who are doing a CUP or something who are, relating to the county and the town in that effort and in that process. I asked him, are they supposed to find out whether there's any,
Mhm.
trespass or any potential damage to these archaeological sites? And he said, well, they should, were his words.
Aren't some hidden too, Tim? You don't know where they're at, so you would have to consult anyway.
Yeah. And the person off the street can't do that. They don't have access. And the 7 of us
But they
don't.
can
either.
tell the county what their plans are.
which is a part of the application process. So I believe that at the last discussion that we had, that Brian had said, kind of what you're alluding to is that they can't do it themselves, so that we would make it a part of the application process and be more diligent about when they're applying for it, that those are the check marks that happen on our end, Dane County's end, basically. So that's why they put it as Dane County's responsibility or us to check with them, which is part of the application process.
So we're checking, we're doing the checking, but it's
Yes,
based on.
yes,
some-
exactly.
I think the most important piece of this is the last 6 words there, to make sure such resources are protected. So I think we're making this a commitment on the part of the Plan Commission and the town to make sure such resources are protected. And the rest of this is little.
Except the other problem, I think, is that there's the wording, looking at this from like not that I'm a lawyer, but I edit law books, so I kind of can think like a lawyer. When reviewing rezone petition land divisions or other development approvals in areas with known archaeological or burial site resources, that's a big caveat. Like, who has to know that? I mean, they're really, I think ideally, And I don't, it's not entirely, I know that we've got this table in this plan that shows certain known sites that are clearly available knowledge to the public because it's in the plan published. And then we know that there are other sites that the county is aware of and the Historical Society is aware of that would not be in this table and that the public is not privy to. So to say, approvals in areas with known archaeological or burial site resources, I think it's pretty wishy-washy. It's a big,
Okay, who has, I guess, anybody who has some legal background
well, I think that
around here who could say how much known? If it's known by somebody, is that enough?
well, we know that it's a qualifying term.
Yeah.
And I don't think we asked for qualifying terms. I think that this sort of leaves a big wide back door. Because, oh, well, it's not known, like who, I mean, the county knows more, the county and the Historic Society, and then, tribal nations not in reverse order have the knowledge. So I think it's sort of beside the point whether it's known or not. They need to check in with the county. And regardless, let them know what the development is, what the land is, and the county, if they're the ones who, as they say, have all the files, are the best source. If they tell us to go to the Preservation Society, fine, but presumably they have the same information and presumably this is their role. So, I mean, I don't personally really care if it ends up being us that goes to the county to check in on this. But I don't think we need this qualifying language that says, well, if it is known that there are these sites that are vulnerable, then because how is that determined? We don't need qualifying language.
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. First of all, Stephanie, does the county check for archaeological or burial site resources when they process a rezoning?
That is what at the last meeting, that was going to become as this
That's so key.
whole thing. Yes, exactly.
Now,
Standard.
thank you. I don't know, how can a county have known and unknown? The county knows where everything is. There's no such thing as an unknown site unless you're digging and uncover it, right? So there has to be, every site has to be known unless it's just discovered.
Mhm.
I mean, so I'm not getting the distinction that we're looking for on this between known and unknown. Either it is known or it isn't. The county knows where everything is. They may not tell you where it is, but they know where everything is.
Correct. It's published or not published is what I would say. So
I don't know.
they know, so it's known to them, the state, all of those things, the ones that they do know, which is like you said, unless you're digging up something that it's just now discovered.
So then the county will tell us if it is on an archaeological site.
Yes,
But they don't automatically. There hasn't been the practice in the past.
but that is what Brian said at the last meeting, saying
Said
that
they should, but they don't.
that was their intention with what they're going through now. Is that's going to be like the next step on to make that general practice for them.
Well, for us, I would say that I would edit it this way. When reviewing rezone petitions, land divisions, or other development approvals, the plan commission shall consult with the county planning and development. Shall consult is also another backdoor. Because what we ask for unequivocally is that it should just simply be a requirement that for any petition of a rezone or land division or other developmental approval, that it be a requirement that either the petitioner or we, I don't care who, checks in with the county on this matter. Says, this is what this petitioner wants to do. Is it in conflict? Does it with any vulnerable archaeological interests? That is simple. It's just a procedural thing that we want to put in there. And I feel like this wording is creating a couple of very big backdoors for something to not go quite that way. I think it's a simple request. It should be a requirement to check in with the county so that they check their records.
So shall isn't the right word?
Well, shall consult with,
Check with.
make sure the
Confirm.
resources are protected.
Confirm.
Yeah, confirm would be better. Shall consult with the Dane County Planning.
Mean the same
It's
thing,
just needs to
consult
be-
and conferring mean the same thing, I think you're. If they're gonna change the
Consulting doesn't
procedure,
result in necessarily an answer. I'm sorry, but this is what I do.
Hope that it.
I would,
would.
Let's try a real life hypothetical example.
Yeah.
Real life hypothetical example. Somebody comes forward and says, I want to build a house on Yanachek's land at the corner of CC and Fish Hatchery Road.
Okay.
Where does that petition come into? To our office? Petition
Both.
clerk's office?
Yes, to both.
Okay, and then where does it go?
They have
to?
applications at both places.
Both the county and the
And
town.
the town, yes,
Right. So,
Simultaneously,
basically, yeah.
so what I've heard from Brian Standing is the county makes it a practice on their checklist of things.
Mhm.
When they get a petition to build a house someplace, they consult the records, the historical society records to see if there's any sites.
Mhm.
I heard equivocating about that from him.
That's getting nailed down now because I'm
Yeah.
on a committee with him and some other county people that are trying to make sure nothing slips through the cracks, but they're reviewing their plan through the way we're reviewing our. plan.
Yes, exactly,
So-
to make sure that that's a practice that they're doing.
And my guess
Better at.
is that they have GIS maps up there that we're probably not privy to.
Exactly.
They can just take the geocode of that proposed place, put it on their restricted archaeological map, maybe they got 5 different ones. They can just do a pinpoint on, it. They can say, is it in or out, or is it near anything?
Right, they'll say that about Yanachek's land where they want to build the house. So what they might do is approve the plan because the house is going to be located in a certain place on the plan.
Mhm.
Or they might tell the petitioner, you've got to move the house to protect this mound that we've found, that we know exists on Yanachek's land.
Very similar to any other landscape issues you may have or protected areas that the zoning petition includes.
So I think what the purpose of this is to make sure that we don't go around behind the county's back and approve something that would damage those
Could we simply-
sites.
and
That's
say
why we have to
confirm?
consult with them. They must know what we're up to and we want to know what they're up to.
Basically.
I think that's why they chose the word consult.
But could we say that it would be our role to confirm with the county that they?
That they checked,
It's just a check on their process?
But
Not.
it's part of their standard operating procedure. We shouldn't be
It
telling
hasn't
them.
been,
how
and
to
I
do their
haven't
job.
seen it in print. So I don't feel like just trusting that that's their. that
well, we
they're-
can't force them to do it because it's not part of our jobs, so.
No, but we can just
This makes
confirm
it our
in our
job
own
to make sure they did. Which I'm perfectly willing to accept that.
but on that procedure too, the Dane County, I don't know that they necessarily have the maps. It was the Wisconsin Historical Society. has
They
the
would have to
maps.
check with all of the places that
So.
that's
they-
what they're working on,
So Dane
if I'm
County,
correct.
yeah, Dane County doesn't have the map so that their staff doesn't go digging. Oh,
I thought they did have significant information and that,
They do.
that their admin person was the one who checked the files.
I guess what I'm sort of getting to, maybe the Dane County does, but I'm not so sure we should.
I don't think we need to. I'm just saying we should confirm that the Dane County has done what they say that they intend to do, but we should confirm with them.
That's what this, I think, requires us to do. We're supposed to confirm.
That's what that meant.
Well, I would change. Personally, I would like to see the words in areas with known archaeological burial site resources. I would change in areas with archaeological or burial site resources. I would delete known because that's so relative in this context.
You're looking at scratching the word known.
Yes, I'm looking at scratching the word known and changing consult to confirm.
Why they want known in there is so that it doesn't
Because
impose an
there's-
obligation to assign some college student to go out and look for it. It's only the ones that are in the GIS that they,
Well,
Yes.
those are the known.
would we want to say known to the county and school and present historic preservation society, known to the people,
Known to the
Yeah.
people who know it.
as opposed to known, because we don't know, so who needs to know, is what I'm saying.
List Dane County and State Historical Society.
Yeah, we could list them and I'd be comfortable with that.
It does.
Consult with
Yeah.
Dane County Planning and.
Well, it doesn't say that they're the ones who know, it just says we would consult. You could say known by the Dane County.
Could you change that word to reported or discovered? Like, are you? Does that clarify the meaning of known? Is it that known can be misconstrued about like an individual's knowledge when what it really is intended to mean is that they're aware of?
It shouldn't even matter whether anything is known, any site, even if it's like a Walmart parking lot, like in Oregon, we don't know if there's an archaeological site there. We don't, any petitioner and none of us.
Oh, you're opening
No.
Pandora's box if you do that though, because like Tim said, you're gonna have to check anything. If they find one little artifact that may be something, then the whole plan is done. I mean, you can't do that to people. It has to be known because you can't make people
But the
search and
rule has
spend
to-
money. They have known, they know where the archaeological places
Lots
are.
of these people, I'm not saying.
I
we
just-
have
I
to know
think it's, I just think known is what's on the maps, what they have in the town, in the county maps and the board. It's.
Ask them to cross-reference the existing dates.
That's what I want them to do, I'm not, but the thing is, the existing data is not, no, is kept by only two parties. As three, if you, the tribal nations, the Historic Preservation Society and the county. None of the rest of us know. So the word known
That's why it
is
says.
relative.
Consult with those people.
Consulting with them doesn't say that they're the ones who know, it just says,
But then who would know?
I'm just saying, if we take out, the wording is
You're
ambiguous.
asking for an absolute here,
No,
and we
I
can't
think
give
you
it to them.
misunderstand. No, no,
I'm
no, no.
listening to you.
I'm saying it's
I've been
ambiguous.
listening to you.
What do you think I'm saying?
I'm thinking you're saying you want every piece of property to be searched for an archaeological or burial aspect
no,
of the site.
That's not at all what I mean.
That's what I think you're saying, because nothing satisfies you on that, other than everything needs to be searched. You just use the Walmart parking
Words
lot.
are very fluid. Words we can change. My meaning is that I simply want to check. I don't want archaeologists digging things up at all. I just want to change the wording so that we confirm with county that they did, they intend to do that.
That's what that says.
Is there? Again, there's obvious disagreement here, but what words do you want changed and then
I would change consult to confirm,
to what?
to confirm that they did it. Confirm that they checked their records, checked their maps, checked the information in the county. That's all.
Change consult to confirm. Does consult adequate or not adequate to everybody else?
It says shall, from the lawyer's standpoint, shall means you have to. It's absolute. You just have to consult.
What's consult?
I have to ask.
It means you talk to them and you consult with them. Does it have this or doesn't it have this? Is there an archaeological or burial site on this piece of property or isn't there? You talk to them, you consult with them, you
Okay,
give
but
advice, you
in
say
saying
yes or
that we
no.
need to talk with them is not the same thing as saying we need to confirm. It's,
What are you gonna do in your conversation with them? What are you gonna say to them?
what
Do you
is the
have that
problem
or
with
don't you?
confirm?
I don't know what I can see. I have nothing else to say on that. To me, it's.
Okay, can I cut in for just a minute? This is Jennifer. So if you say confirm, you are going to hold up the process because the process goes where the town approves it and then the county approves it. If we have to confirm it, we're gonna have to the process will take even longer, because I don't know quite how that works to get a confirmation. And I also feel like at this point, we approve the plan. These things we're talking about should come as an amendment. Perhaps.
To check in with the county to make sure that their plans did not impact vulnerable archaeological sites. That's simply what we asked for. It's not clear to me that that is what we got. I mean, I'm not asking for anything different from what we discussed. Just feel like this language is and doesn't really.
I'm satisfied with the word consult, but let me see if you have a different understanding of that meaning. Let's say me, the plant commission, might be the clerk, it might be the 7 of us, but I should consult with Dane County and make sure that they followed their process of checking the GIS records or checking the Historical Society to make sure such resources are protected. I don't know how I can confirm that other than just ask them.
That's what I was gonna say. If you say confirm, that means we physically did something to make sure that they did that, which is just asking. Because we can't confirm that. Unless I'm sitting there waiting for them
How
to
would you
do
know if
it.
they actually did it?
Yeah,
We have to rely on them to tell us. We did.
Right.
That's
I mean,
all
if
I
they
need.
tell us that they did it,
Then we're
would
done.
we not believe them? I'm
no, but
not
that's
saying
the
that they
difference
have to-
between the two words is consult means ask them.
Consult just means talking.
Oh,
It
I know what
doesn't
it
mean
means. I have
confirming. It's not-
several definitions of it here. That's Jennifer. And then confirm means that we actually made sure that that person did it, which we can't confirm it. We can't give, they can give us a confirmation, but we can't confirm that they did it.
All we can do is ask. And if
Yeah.
they say yes,
I get, okay, well, maybe you
Which is asking is consulting.
I'm not sure if I did, but whatever.
the word.
I'm happy with what you described, Tim, as being the process. So if that is what this means to you, then that is certainly what I would like to see happen.
Okay, good. And I'll confirm with Brian Standing that that's the process they follow. And if it's different from what you and I now understand, I'll let you know, because I think it's important too. This gives us a role in that process. which
Making sure that
They
they
did their
checked
job.
that box, yes.
There are limits on what we can make sure. I can ask them and they can say, yes, we did. And then we have to accept that. Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully someday, soon, some person here, such as me, will also have access to the Historical Society records, but we access to a person that can check it for us, and we can do a double check and make sure the counties are keeping their word on these things. Okay, all right, very good. And I'll check with Brian Standing, make sure that that's going to be incorporated in their procedures. Because this is very important to the town. We want to like a lot of sites. Okay. Anybody else got something else to, we have the edits?
Sorry, Dave, you had mentioned map 32 is missing. Well,
The reference.
the reference to it.
Reference, I'm sure the map is somewhere.
The map is 32 isn't attached to what Stephanie sent via email.
So there isn't a map 32?
There isn't a map 32.
Well, that would be why it's not referenced.
They didn't put in the scenario 1 land use map as map 2. This goes to map 31 on whatever you sent us.
So that's
Okay.
one fewer map.
So map 32,
Is not a part of the
Is
PDF
not-
yet,
the land use map that they approved was not
part of that
part of
PDF.
the
Okay.
attachment.
Yep, that might be why it's not referenced. And I know that Brian said, which is why I think that he'll just put that in there now. that it's approved, you know what I mean, that we can see it, and then he'll reference.
So we have to
those
put
things.
that map in there too.
Well, it's in the linked version,
It wasn't in the one you sent to us.
right, that's I can only do the PDF version. But in the linked version that he's given us for our website and stuff, that is a part of it. Same with like the chapter 4, I had to let him know, like, hey, you gotta send me the updated chapter 4. But that's why I'm assuming that they will now reference those, and that means it's missing, so we need to have that added.
I wonder if that's why it was taken out. It was automatically taken out because it was on map 32.
Not
Makes sense,
approved yet.
Did you find having the map numbers useful, Dave? Or
I think it is.
Yeah, because we're getting more maps as we get more. I don't want to say granular or whatever, or more things have to be looked at, then it gets,
yeah, I like
Yes.
that.
in fact,
I
in the old
think-
days, you just have 1 or 2 maps and that was it. Well, now we're getting much more.
I think that it definitely is probably just left out because we didn't have map 32 yet, and now we have map 32 and they'll add that back in, but I need to make a point to make sure that that happens, so.
You got that on your list?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, you got a list
From-
with us, Brian's standing.
from Dave's
Yeah.
information.
Okay.
And it
Anybody
might.
got anything else that's good that you wanna bring up? No, that was it for me. Anybody over on this side of the room? We'll call you the north side of the room.
The what side?
The north side.
Way over there
Which is the left bank.
I never can remember.
and see. if-
Did you have something, Sharon, or are you still looking?
No, I'm good.
No. Sharon, are you okay?
Search.
So.
Okay. How about if we end that review with the little assignments, or, yeah, this particular assignments we have to follow up. And we can move on now to item number 5 on the agenda, communications. That's not yours yet, Arlen.
I know.
You have any communications to talk about?
I just have that the public hearing will start at 6 PM on September 19th. All the notices are already on the website, and it'll be a joint meeting, but I don't think I have anything.
So we'll want all 7 members of the commission to be.
If you can't be.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a full,
That's our.
it's your hooray.
And that is our regular meeting, but it starts at 6 instead of 6.
That is during our regular scheduled meeting, yeah. It's on September 9th.
So what, the public comments and then the board approves, or how does that work?
Yes. That's what would
They
happen.
can amend if they want to,
Mhm.
based on the.
Well, they can. They can approve it that night if they don't have, anything, hearing anything different that they feel like they wanna go back and discuss more. So I believe, Arlen, maybe you would know more than me, because I wasn't on your last meeting. I believe the intention is to do the public hearing and adopt,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Not at the next town board meeting, but actually that night,
That night of the 19th.
unless pitchforks and stuff come out against something in here.
Well, then you have maybe the options of it gets sent back to. It's sent back or it gets approved with recommendations.
Yep.
For amendment.
So we'll stand by if they send it back to us for whatever purpose. Okay, and under communications, let me just bring up something I mentioned informally that Steve Root, longtime Parks Committee Chairman, is resigning. He'll be done with his duties by November of this year. So if any of you are interested, or if you want to spread the word that somebody is going to have to be appointed to take Steve's place, and they have someone that might be interested in parks, just carry that information home with you. And
Could you say a little bit more about what that imaging entails, which parks and what his responsibility
the
are?
town parks.
He's the town park committee chair person.
So-
And it's all of the town parks, not Anderson, but all the town parks. Now, he worked with Anderson Park, so he worked with Row on giving updates and things like that as well. But it encompasses all of the town parks.
So anything to do with town parks, as I understand it, Stephanie, is something that the committee works on and consults with the town board. It's not a subcommittee of the town board, it is a standalone committee. And Steve Root is not a member of the town board, he has been, but he is not.
Correct. Steve Jernigan is our representative from the town board on the park committee now.
One other thing about the town boards, for example, the park committee, for example, is Steve Root has worked with Boy Scouts doing Boy Scout projects, improving the parks, benches, trees, paths. park tracks,
Not
stuff.
Eagle Scout projects are.
Yes, right, so that was one of his jobs.
Revolve around that.
And he would like to continue to do that for the time being.
Even after his resignation.
He said that he told us that after, the chair, resigning from the chair position, but that he would still be that point person, maybe for the Eagle Scouts would come to him, and they naturally probably will for a while anyways. And then that he would bring that to the park committee then and help the boys along that way.
Yeah.
So that is a big part of what he was doing. But to know that he will continue that like liaison in between. He would like to continue to do that.
We have, what, Jessica's madly taking notes there. There's two major parks, the town park and the Bicentennial Park. It's on MM. And then how many neighborhood parks do we have?
We have 5 parks total.
Okay, and are there also some, like in Trustler Circle area,
It's
that there's a
10
drainage thing through there? Is that one of those 5 neighborhood parks?
I don't know where Trussell Circle is, but I can name the parks. Town Park, Kennedy Park, Bicentennial Park. I don't know where that one is.
It's
So,
on M
okay.
by the quarry.
What did I say? Kennedy Park, Town Park, Bicentennial Park. I don't know what's the other thing. Now I'm trying to blank you when I talk about them all the time. Hillcrest Park, yes. Hillcrest is one of them. And Raven Oaks Park. Yep. Those are the ones that they cover at all of their meetings. And usually 1 or 2 of the people, mainly one, wherever is closest or which ones they pay attention to, they come and give updates on each of the parks and what they need and all of those things. From signage to, poison ivy and those kind of things. We have, Kate was in Raven Oaks now. I don't know who does Raven Oaks yet, but then a Hillcrest, I think, is one of the other women on the board or on the committee that kind of give updates because they're in those parks more frequently. And Steve mainly did Kennedy Park and
So I'm not saying you necessarily have to pass the word, but if you know of anybody, you can pass that around, because
yeah.
Steve Root is going to be very hard to replace, and if
Yes.
we can get a good person in there, that would sure help. I think he'd help with the transition too. Okay.
He would, yeah.
That's the end of our communications, as far as I know. Arlen, time for your report.
Well, we had recommended the adoption of the plan. It was presented with scenario 1. It was passed unanimously. Those present, very little discussion. And just move forward to the scheduled meeting on the 19th, the joint meeting on the 19th. Not much
That's
else. It was pretty fast. There was the discussion was limited, and it's got a gratification to a job well done by the plan commission.
Did you anticipate any discussion from the board
Yes,
and you didn't get it?
correct.
And why do you feel that was?
I think there'd been enough discussion or pitch that this had been hashed out extensively, and that this plan commission passed this unanimously without division, discussion. So I think you spoke loudly as a commission.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and I think that they were, the board members were on majority of our ending meetings for the public hearings and things, so they heard from the public as well. Probably had a lot to do with it.
If there's something, some preparation for the public hearing on the 19th. I mentioned it to Brian, but I don't know if it's going to happen that we have an outline of what's different between the current plan and
We
what
have
this
one of
is.
those already?
Pardon?
We do. He might clean it up maybe, but we have this one, the significant changes from current adopted plan.
That'd be great if you
That-
could.
That'd be
share
good.
that, yeah.
I think the public,
You can update it
This-
though with what we have.
this is an overwhelming document
Mhm.
to just be throwing and saying, but if we can highlight those differences,
Did you give us?
I
this
think we
last
can
one?
focus the
Okay, then I mean,
hearing much better.
Anybody have any questions for Arlen? Other than, I was at the meeting and nobody brought up scenario 1 versus scenario 2 or anything like that. They just were happy to have our recommendation and approved it unanimously.
And that was, like I say, it was expecting scenario 2 to be raising its ugly head again. But
Yes, nice.
this commission won. And so that's, hopefully it'll be done.
do you anticipate at the public hearing that there will be people that will come in and speak on behalf of scenario number 2?
You know, when we had that public hearing that was talking 1 and 2, I was deeply surprised that the public overwhelmingly said 1, not 2.
I was too, but I'm wondering why because there was people here that were definitely wanting issues that were on scenario number 2,
Correct.
and they didn't really speak up like I thought they would.
I think they also got the tenor of the crowd and that they don't have the backing that they thought they had. So I would not be surprised if scenario 2 comes up. I will also not be surprised if this includes scenario 1. Just goes that way. If you've got a different observation, I'm sure, what's your political testing of the wind? Well, we'll find out on the 19th. So far, it's becoming kind of going along in lockstep, that issues have been resolved. Most of the issues have been resolved.
Has anybody been surprised by the way, from the response we've gotten from people that have been at our meetings? No?
I detected that the scenario number 1, people were very well organized. They had contacted each other and came here en masse on purpose. And I don't know if that proved to be intimidating to the few voices that were going to dissent, but they did make that strong show of force. They have to do with organizing ahead of time. Maybe the other side is going to organize for our next meeting. They know that's their last shot. If I'm in charge of the meeting, I'm going to have to limit that unwillingness. Have to be on my game.
I would say from an office perspective, I wouldn't anticipate any scenario 2. No,
In terms of what you based on, like,
fact that nobody's talked about it except for Steve Root. We haven't had any other calls in regard to it. We had one other call, but that person wouldn't have been eligible in either scenario. So it wasn't really, it was just more like, well, if that person could get it, why couldn't I get it? And it's like, well, you wouldn't have been able to get it with that scenario either. And then another thing, when we had these public hearings, some of the people who, yes, may have wanted more development on their properties, they wouldn't have been included in that RH anyways, and they voted against it. I have, they said, I wanna build this, but no, I don't want scenario 2. So I don't know of anybody else that would come out. Except for Steve. And I feel like Steve felt like last time he was here and he spoke on it, that he was like, but I'm only one person. And he felt that, like, I haven't gotten anybody else to kind of come up and say anything. So I just don't foresee that happening here.
Do you think the TDRs, pressure mitigating aspect of it, people asked.
Heard anybody speak up for or against TDR?
No, I've heard people, like some like large landowners speak up for the TDR program, obviously. But not really that those people were pacified with the TDR program, I don't think, because I think they just wanted it for no extra cost. So
What do you mean
they didn't want to have to buy a transfer of development right to build on their property. They just wanted to get back what they had before. So I don't think that
the Tofties might use the TDRs.
they're not eligible for the TDR because they're an ETJ.
They're what?
They're gonna be annexed.
Oh, they
They're,
are
yeah,
absolutely gonna be.
well, I mean, they're like right in line.
That's their alternative. I have
It is
struggled.
their alternative, absolutely, and they've kind of came to that, and I think they've moved past, I think they really wanted to stay town residents, but I think that they're like, okay, well, what will the village do? And I don't think that the village is gonna allow it either, but
Yeah, I was just curious, you guys can tell me, farming, with the drought this year. So on, with crop insurance and so on and so forth, would that make farmers more inclined to say, maybe I should sell a lot, get some more money?
I don't think things are that bad yet.
Okay. I was just curious, I was thinking
Yeah.
about.
If they're good farmers,
If
they
you have
plan
anything
for
on
this.
the,
There's ups and downs, cycles.
There's government subsidies out there that help the farmers tremendously. That's most of us are not aware.
We can't talk about that.
if you have.
I'm just kidding. In the budget discussion, nobody ever talks about messing with farms. I'm just curious, because
The price, even the price has taken a bit of a dive, $2 dive. The past 3-4 months, but it's also. As long as things are unsettled in the Black Sea area. That Uncle Vladimir is making a lot of American farmers. And Brazilian farmers, well. Or I should say, they're doing better. I don't know if it's making them wealthy, but they're doing better. So if something really gets settled there and there's a flood on the world market, that would be.
Interesting.
Or drought or hail or fire. Fire. Okay, thank you for the report. Anything else you can think of, Ronnie? It was short and sweet.
And so,
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Anybody close enough to say no? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for your attention to the detail that you guys have. And regrets. I appreciate it.
it's.
Okay, so we all need to have a copy of some. So, yeah, how do you feel about that?
No, they were kind of valuable looking back.
wonderful.
But it looks really like.
Bonfire.
Blue bunker.
Yeah.
Bonfire season, maybe. Or 15 days.
How many copies are did you go through?
We have a laser, which is nice, so not as many as one would think, but paper, great,
Expensive.
yeah.
I know from our office, color printing is more expensive.
Yes, that's why I didn't print everybody maps, because I also like to print them off for you guys on the bigger stuff, and I figure if some of these are unsettled, I don't wanna print them off and then throw them away again, so.
That's right.